Hello, we are live. Um, Please let me know you're able to hear me and see me. I have a whole new uh, software that I'm learning for this live streams, and you will soon know why I'm so skewed on my screen. Um, Hello, hi. It's 9th July 2025, 7 p.m. And we are here to talk about street dogs or free living dogs. Um, Clara is here. Good morning from Argentina. Um, Biggie is here. Eva is here. Hello. We had Eva last week. I hope you had time to catch up on that conversation. It was amazing. I loved it. And of course, Eva will come back soon. You know that. Um, so how have you been? How has the week been? What have you been up to by yourself or with your dogs? What's been happening? On our end, it's been an interesting week. So last Tuesday, that was July 1st, um, my husband and I committed to like going for walks in the morning to a lake nearby. And so we have been going to the lake every morning. We meet a lot of dogs during our walk. It's mostly the incentive for the walk. Um, in fact, one of the days I suggested to Varun saying that, we change our route because at the end of our walk, we meet like a whole bunch of dogs. Um, and he was like, no, because you will go for the walk and you will turn around and come back after meeting them the first bit. So, no, we'll finish the walk and we'll meet them at the end of it. So, you've earned the meeting of the dogs. Yeah. But that's been happening. So, lots of dogs, lots of videos, lots of observations, lots of mistakes. And while we were doing this, um, it kind of, made sense to bring up the conversation around why even observe free living dogs? Why observe street dogs? What what do the learnings that we get from these dogs have anything to do with our dogs? So I thought, let's have that conversation and let's have that chat together. But before we get into that conversation, did you see like recently there are these posts that are coming up about a recent research, but when I like dug deeper, I don't think it's recent, it's a little old. Let me get that for you. And now you'll know why I'm sitting this odd manner. Not able to see. One second. See, it's going to take me a bit to get this, but we'll get there. Oh, it's really not there. I spent a good amount of time trying to figure this out before our session, but I will get it. I'm sure I will get it. But the conversation was around, yes, I should get it now. There are these posts going around on social media where people are talking about how there was a recent study, but I don't think it was recent. I didn't have a lot of time to like get into the like deep dive into it and then dig deeper into what the conversation was. But the study was about analyzing photos and videos of multiple dogs, human dog interaction, and they found that about 80% of the dogs don't like being hugged. So, how many of you are surprised by it? Are you surprised by this study results? 80% of the dogs don't like being hugged. And based on what the information was, I think they analyzed the videos. Just a second. Yeah, they analyzed the videos and they were looking at body language signals, specifically for calming signals of the dogs, and they found that there were a lot of like stress signals that the dogs were showing, with like lip licking, head turning, and stuff like that. And they concluded that about 80% of the dogs don't like being hugged or, mm, yeah, hugged. I won't extend it because I don't know much about it. Are you surprised by the 80% number? Are you surprised that dogs don't like being hugged? What do you think? My friend shared it with me. So one of my close friends, um, Priyam, she shared it with me that, um, did you see this? And then both of us like, are we even surprised by this? Of course we are not. Of course we are not surprised by it. Yep. So we have a problem. If my screen share doesn't work, I won't be able to help like have a lot of these conversations, but we will manage it. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm absolutely not surprised. I think we still have to learn a lot about consent and how dogs give consent. Absolutely, absolutely. So I can't bring up, I'm unable to bring up that screen, but I will read out the comments on that post. So this was put up on Instagram on one of these pages, handles, and the comments were interesting. Uh, Study shows that 100% of the study was done by a cat lover. Interesting. And mine love it. If I don't hug them, they lean into me with all their weight until I do. Not my dog. Um, did the dog tell you? So I found these comments very interesting because we have such, you know, selective way of responding to things. So if you tell that, offer connection, offer empathy, dogs have feelings, dogs are sentient, then immediately response is like, show me the research. What does the research say? Where's the research for it? Or when we say don't use aversives, you present research and people just deny it. And then there's like studies that come out like this, and we 100% do not want to listen to it. So I feel like there's a lot of barrier for people to really take a step back and then understand what is happening. Like, okay, fine, dogs don't like hugs, and let's assume that I don't agree with it. Can we not take a step back and then wonder, why is somebody saying this? And okay, can I just learn body language communication? Can I learn to read my dog better? um, and then come to a conclusion myself? Can this not be done? Like, why is there a rigidity to not accept certain things? Like, there's a barrier. Have you observed similar barriers too? There was one more thing that I had that happened recently, like just yesterday, I think. People have a hard time to accept dogs telling them no. Exactly. And I think we just believe, right? Like, we believe dogs are friendly, there's unconditional love, dogs love cuddling. Like, these are like such popular views about dogs that we end up having, um, that we are unable to make sense of any other reality. And I think we forget that um, they have their own perspectives, they have their own preferences, They may or may not like it. Even if they like it, there's a way to interact with them. Like, for example, Zoe is a very tactile dog. She loves it. She loves being touched, pet, all kinds of things. Um, but she doesn't like being hugged. And there are certain interactions, like touch based interactions, that she doesn't prefer. So it's worth thinking about whether um, we want to have these barriers around us in understanding, or we want to just have an open mind. And it kind of ties into our conversation today as well. And similarly, there was another conversation yesterday where I had posted something about walking dogs, and primarily the conversation was about if your dog is feeling distressed and repeatedly showing that they're distressed, one of the few things that you can do while you walk your dogs is just change their environment, the when you walk your dog, where you walk your dog, and stuff like that. And of course, there's a comment somewhere in the internet on social media that this is not applicable to every dog. I love the thought process that yes, not all dogs are same, but I don't know if there's any dog who voluntarily chooses to be distressed. Like, that is the choice they make. I want to be distressed. I want to experience pain. I want to experience um, stress. I want to experience anxiety. Unless the choice otherwise is probably isolation or loss of connection. So I really wonder, like, yes, not all dogs are the same, but I don't know if there's any dog who is voluntarily choosing to be distressed. So I think it's a few things that we want to like really think about when we are bringing up these conversations. So yeah, I wanted to just share that. Okay, so we want to talk about street dogs. Can you tell me how many of you have had interactions with street dogs? How many of you live alongside street dogs? Have you observed street dogs? What is your view about them? What are they called in your local language? How are they referred to? What's the nomenclature? What's the word? Can we start there? Do any of you live alongside street dogs? Let's start there. And we are ready to get started. While I wait for your response, I am going to figure out this because we need to watch a few videos today. Lots of videos of street dogs. So do any of you, I live in India, I live in Bangalore. So we have street dogs. We live alongside street dogs. Is there a glitch that's happening on my screen? It's weird. Chani says, I've had the privilege to live with the streeties in India, and now in Curacao, the streeties are known as West Pointers, and I have started meeting them, interacting with them where possible. Lovely. So, have you seen a difference in how the dogs in India responded to you during interactions, or how the dogs are kind of treated in India versus in Curacao? Is there any difference that you've seen between them? Clara says, in my country, there's very little knowledge about free roaming dogs. They are generally seen as dogs needing adoption, denied social ties, or locked away in kennels. It's very sad and worrying. I know. I mean, I think there's a strong feeling of wanting these dogs outside of streets, like not want them in the streets, and that's a whole can of worms in itself. And that happens a lot in India too. I mean, there are people looking at it in very different ways in India as well. So I think, yeah, the perceptions really depend on the culture, what we have believed about street dogs, and I will share my story about street dogs too in a bit. But yeah, I kind of empathize with that, and I understand, and it's kind of worrying, and I don't know what we can do to change that perception. But it's interesting. Is there a term that they use in your country for free roaming dogs? Like here, they're mostly referred to as street dogs or stray dogs. Um, but in our local language, in my mother tongue, which is Kannada, we call it Bidi Nai. Bidi is street, Nai is dog, and it's literally street dog, right? So, um, is there any such terms that is used for the dogs in your country? Chani says, I have to say there's a big difference in how the streeties are perceived in India and how they're perceived here in Curacao. Very interesting. Um, we need to understand the real agency that these dogs have. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think agency and autonomy is really a big factor in how they live their lives, and what they learn, like how they learn to navigate social situations, how they solve problems, how they behave, how they interact. I think a lot of it comes from, and I could be wrong, we might need to study this a lot more, but it's my belief that it comes a lot from their agency, their ability to walk away from situations. Oh, yes, the dogs here also don't trust humans, and we see that clearly, but they still try, which I find very courageous. But that being said, I feel the dogs here seem more worried than in India. That's very interesting because the lake dogs that we meet regularly now in the last 9-10 days, interestingly, many of them are not up for human touch. Um, if I'm able to show videos, I don't know. If I'm able to show the videos, I will show you a few videos where they are comfortable in a distance, like being a little distant from you, but being around you. In fact, when we go, there are a lot of people, they're walking, they're running, they're listening to music loudly on the speakers, which of course my husband and I were cribbing about, that why can't people just use earphones? But there's like sound, music, people running, jogging. There's one place, and I'll see if I can show that video too, which is like a stage, and there are four dogs, and every single day we see those four dogs right there. There is no other place we have spotted them till date. And around them, people are doing exercise. My husband and I, we started doing skipping. There are people doing all sorts of physical activity, and their dogs are unbothered, absolutely unbothered, which I find very interesting, that they live so close, in such close proximity to humans, and where humans are and their activity and whatever we are doing, and they seem unbothered, but they are also not very up for interactions, which I find it very interesting. There are a couple of videos. I mean, in fact, in one of the videos, and I couldn't capture it, I was capturing my husband and having interaction with two dogs, and there was another dog standing right next to me, at a distance, of course, maybe like about 3-4 feet distance, and I'm capturing my husband, and this dog is standing next to me, and for some reason I just you know sway to the left towards the dog, and the dog got like uncomfortable and walked a few steps away. That's how amazingly clued in they are to our body language, to what we are doing, to how we are interacting with them, which is so amazing. But they're not interested, like a lot of them are not interested in human touch, human interaction, but they're interested in you, they're curious about you. And yes, I have also seen when I was working full time in our campus where resources were limited, where there was higher human dog conflict, there was not a lot of place that they could access resources, be it shelter, be it connection, be it food. We saw that there was a lot more wariness of the dogs. Again, these are all from my experiences of observing free living dogs. Varun says we do, and we have recently seen a lot of new dogs who have turned up near our house. Absolutely, I think there have been a few new dogs in near our house, and I wonder why. We're still figuring it out. Clara says here they're called calejeros. I hope um, that's how it's pronounced, or perros de pueblo, and those who live further away from humans are called. I swear, if I pronounce it, I will butcher it. So I will not, but it's interesting. I love that there are different terminologies for different dogs who are living in different kinds of human settlements. Eva says, still waiting for a moment to meet and observe street dogs. You know what I'm going to say. You absolutely know what I'm going to say. So, yeah, it's time you make plans for it. But very interesting that a few of you have had interactions with street dogs. So let's get started with just the terms we use for dogs. And of course, if any of you have heard Sindoor talk about it, and I think I will share some of the resources that where she has spoken on podcasts and stuff like that, to like listen a lot more in detail. But just to get it out of the way, there's a reason why I say free living dogs, and free living dogs is a lot more academic, and street dogs is what we can call more, informally. Chani says we need our little bugs with. Absolutely, we do. We absolutely do, and it has to be in India because street dogs. But why free living dogs? And I know that there are different terms as free roaming, free ranging dogs, and then there's free living dogs too. Um, and the reason why we use free living dogs as the academic term or the formal term is because these dogs are literally their life is free. Like they live on the streets freely. They are not they just don't have, it's not only freedom of movement, or it's not just freedom of moving around. There is a freedom to like what they want to do in their life, like the dogs that they interact with, the choices that they make is not dependent on a human caregiver, which is a little different from free roaming or free ranging dogs, where oftentimes they are owned dogs. They do have like a owner or a caregiver who lets them roam freely, and that they are different from the dogs that we see in India, who are born on streets, raised by dogs on streets, choose to live on streets. Many of them choose to live on the streets and refuse to be adopted, and they form their life, their social connections, um, everything on the streets. Like the street is their home, that's where they live. So free living dogs makes a lot more sense for the dogs in question, and street dogs is a better term than stray dogs, because stray dogs often is used in the context of dogs who have gotten lost, been abandoned. Often pet dogs that have been abandoned, dogs who have gotten lost from homes. So the understanding is that they have strayed away from their original home, but street dogs, their original home are the streets. So it's important to make this distinction. We don't even use feral dogs in our conversations because they are not the species that we are talking about. So that distinction was a little important to start off with. Clara says how interesting this distinction between terms is. Absolutely. And I think, like, I'm so used to stray dogs, stray animals, while we are referring to street dogs. And so these terms can get muddled up and the understanding of it. So, for example, in India, street dogs, stray dogs all kind of seem to mean the same thing. But when I say stray dog and globally and on an international platform, stray dogs mean something completely different. So it's important that we use the terms appropriately so that there is no confusion about who they are, where they belong, and also what their life is. Their life is on the streets, and their life is their home is streets. So it's amazing. Um, they're not strays, they're streeties. The streets are their home. Absolutely. We love the street dogs at South and Varun's home. Please tell their stories if you can. Absolutely. I think I'm going to try and then share their stories and then maybe like tie into it. But I really wanted videos, and I'm not sure why these videos are not showing up. But I will figure it out. I promise I'll figure it out as we are talking as well. Okay, so we have the terms kind of sorted. Is that Nalin or is that my bestie? I spoke about her, Priyam, a while ago. And we were having that conversation about the study on that 80% dogs don't like. So, yeah. So now we have the terms kind of sorted, hopefully. And I know Sindoor explains this a lot better than I can. Hello. I couldn't guess your username. Okay, so now that we have the terms sorted, we also have to look at some data, right? And again, I don't know how current this data is because this number has been used for years now. But have any of you read the book What is a Dog by Raymond and Lorna Coppinger? Have you read it? Say hi if you've read it. It's a book I read a while ago. I think it's been about 4 years since I read that book. It's been an interesting book, and I really think if and I'll type in the name of the book here. What? I swear. What is a dog? So if you're interested in free living dogs, like just information about free living dogs or a starting point to just understand free living dogs, I think that's an amazing book to read. Like just start from there. There are two things from that book that I just want to point out here, which is relevant to our conversation. And we keep seeing this come up, and it's been referenced in paper after paper on street dogs, free living dogs. Um, which is that about 70 or over 70% of dogs in the world are street dogs, free living dogs. Over 70% of the dogs are free living dogs. So the global majority population of dogs are not owned, are not our companion dogs. They are street dogs. So wouldn't it make sense for us to observe them, learn from them, understand what these dogs are, what their social intelligence is like, what their ethogram is like, what their human animal interaction looks like, how their interaction within their species and with other species looks like? Wouldn't it make sense to study this majority population? And of course, like Chandni mentioned earlier too, free living dogs of India and free living dogs of Curacao are not the same. Free living dogs of Bangalore and free living dogs of Delhi are not the same. Within the same country, two different cities, two different maybe two places. In fact, within Bangalore, what I was talking to you about, the campus dogs who live on the outskirts of Bangalore, they're not within the city. They are different from the free living dogs that we are seeing in the lake, who are different from the free living dogs we are seeing on the main road of our house. They're also different. It's important that we look at them and understand and learn from them, um, and understand what are the factors that make them similar, and what are the factors that make them so different from each other. You're hyping me up, Priyam. Like, I love it. I love it. I enjoy it. But it also, as you know, makes me go like, I don't know what to say. But yeah, so wouldn't it make sense to look at these dogs as opposed to, let's say, for example, lab tests on dogs? Like, how much more do we want to just keep looking at Skinner's dogs in captive cages, and how they respond? We have been repeatedly going over Skinner's dogs again and again for decades now. Would we want to like rely on those dogs in lab setup, in lab designed studies and experiments, or don't would we want to observe the dogs out there living life naturally, normally, what is normal to them? So one aspect and one reason why it's fair and it's important that we study about street dogs is that they form a majority in dog population. And if I talk about the free living dogs, street dogs in India, for most part, where they are well taken care of, there's less human dog conflict, you see that they you can see their ethology come out. You can see how dogs are, the complexities, that the nuanced way of interacting with their environment, their preferences, their personalities, what matters to them. And this is where uh, the amazing depth of understanding of street dogs comes up. So that's one reason. uh, it's very sad that in Europe street dogs have almost disappeared. Yeah. So interestingly, um, when India was under the British colonial rule, there was a, and I think I should do like a proper research on this, but there was a rule, a law that was enforced to eliminate the street dogs and kill them and cull them, and that happened for a very long time, till the recent laws came out, which was in 2001. Was one set of laws, but that is when your ABC programs, your animal birth control programs became popular. But prior to that, like, there was a lot of, even under British colonial rule, there was a lot of pushback on killing of dogs, culling of dogs, especially street dogs. So there is a whole history to this too, and thank goodness that we didn't let go that uh, culture of street dogs in India. So yeah, but there are, I think, certain places where when street dogs are eliminated, and I think Madras is an example of this, which is one of Chennai, where culling programs were quite popular till like 1990s, and the more they culled, the more dogs came up, and it became hard to like eliminate dogs as such, which again comes back to like one of the things that they bring up in What is a Dog book, which is that they talk about how, interestingly, they say they talk about ecological niches, right? And to simply put it, ecological niche is basically what place you occupy in the ecosystem, your species, right? And what they say is that humans, of course, evolved to be part of the human environment. That is their ecological niche. and humans as in Homo sapiens. There were other human-like species, and Homo sapiens were the ones that survived, and Homo sapiens, of course, were evolved to occupy this niche, which is our own niche. Um, Dogs, and this is their theory, is that dogs also evolved to occupy the same ecological niche, which is in close proximity to humans, accessing human excesses and leftovers. So that is the ecological niche dogs evolved to occupy. And so there is a theory, it's called, let's see if this will come up. People, let's pray that we're getting this. Are you able to? Oh, wait one second. You're not able to, I know. I think I figured something. Okay. Are you able to see this? I hope you're able to see this. Okay. If you're able to see the PDF on this side, then please say hi. I hope you're able to see it. Amazing. Okay. So I was just researching a little bit on dog social cognition and stuff like that. And so one theory came up, which is called convergent evolution of dog and human social cognition. The evolution of similar socio-cognitive traits in dogs and humans as a product of shared or similar selection pressures. So what this means is that it's a theory, but it's a very compelling theory to think about, is that it seems like dogs had the ecological niche of human proximity and human waste and human excesses and all of that. And humans also had the same environment ecological niche, and so they both evolved in the same ecosystem with the same pressures, with the same threats, and so the theory is that we then created a collaborative approach so that both species survive, and so the idea of co-evolution, and which is why it's believed that dogs understand humans a lot better than many of human relatives like apes or primates, other primates. And it's also believed that if you have a wolf and a hand-reared wolf by humans, they don't do as well as, let's say, a puppy, a very young puppy, because it's believed that the evolution happened together. So the idea is that, so this is a theory that is kind of floating around about how, like, what's the history of evolution for dogs and humans, and what's the dog-human connection for so many years. One theory, of course, that people do talk about a lot is wolves came in, they were domesticated and became dogs. This is the other theory that's being proposed, that this is a whole other species that developed not because humans domesticated or tamed them, but because both of them evolved together in a symbiotic and cooperative relationship, which we have been sharing for thousands of years now. With me till now. So this is a very interesting theory, and because of that, it's believed that you see dogs wherever human settlements are. So if you have to eliminate dogs completely, then you have to eliminate human waste, the high conflict for dogs. So I think there's a lot of history to how one might just eliminate street dogs completely from a civilization where humans do occupy. So that's very interesting. But yes, ecological niche. So that's another important bit, that if dogs evolved in close proximity to humans, and we have a 70% population of dogs who are unowned, who are not under control of a lot of human expectations, human centric needs and lifestyle, then wouldn't it be nice to see how they just coexist with humans? That would be an interesting thing to study and see what comes of it. So that's the other bit that I wanted to talk about. Something happened. Okay. Okay. So treaties have an important role in our civilizations as well. Absolutely. So I think that co-evolution bit is very important, that I think we forget that yes, we helped dogs, but dogs helped us too. But these are just theories. We don't know. There are some of these theories make a lot better case than others. So yeah. Now come so global majority population of dogs are free living, um, and they occupy ecological niches that are in close proximity to humans, which means that they have evolved to be close to humans. So what does that look like? Like, what does it even look like to have a dog living in close proximity to humans and who's untrained? It's an interesting thing to think about. um, there's also one second there's also a belief that dogs, if untrained, just cannot survive in human settlements and human environments, and with like ever evolving human um, civilization, especially with this extensive urbanization, very quick urbanization. And I think there was also did you see that study that came out, or like that article that came out some time back about having the new era of domestication of dogs? Did you see that? Did you have a chance to read it? If you did, do you remember what that was about? Would you like to like quickly share something about it, or just say hi if you've read it? Till then, I'm going to figure out my videos, because I really do want to show you guys the videos. Ecological niches is a very interesting. It's a very interesting concept, and it's a little. I mean. Like, please share more. For example, the ecological niche of a tiger is definitely not city. It is in the forests, in the jungle. That is their ecological niche, and a certain kind of forests, I suppose. Your ecological niche of fish is water bodies, right? So I think it's basically like the space they occupy, but with dogs it is a lot more specific of what kind of. And wolves do not belong to that ecological niche. Feral dogs do not belong to that ecological niche. So it's important to remember that they are two different than species, um, and so they don't belong in the same niche. uh, those are like examples, but it's a very technical thing. Basically, what space in the ecosystem you evolved to occupy, um, that is what it specifically is about. Okay, so uh, we spoke about 70% of the dogs. We spoke about ecological niche. um, we also want to talk about how a big chunk of how we approach dogs in today's world is shaped by studies on wolves, captive wolves. Is it even fair? for decades, people lapped up the idea of dominance theory, they lapped up the idea of alpha male, alpha dog, pack leaders based on studies done on wolves. And then you reject observations on street dogs saying they're not the same as companion dogs. Yes, wolves are different. There are some things that you see similar, there are some things that are different. Captive wolves are even more different. And then within dogs, yes, there is similarities and difference. But how do we know what similarities and differences come up if we don't even make an attempt to learn from them or observe them for that matter, or even look at them as worthy of studying? It's important to then think about that too. I'm going to attempt, just 1 second, while I try and do this. What are your thoughts up until now? Unfortunately, I'm not able to find your find a way to like do my video streaming after having learned it. Can you believe I sat the entire afternoon figuring it out, and then now this is what it is? The dominance theory coincides nicely with the human need to dominate everything. I guess this is why it has been so widely adopted by humans. Exactly. It sits well with us, right? Like, just the. And then this is where intersectionality comes in. That as a society, hierarchy is something that we love. We love hierarchy. We love the idea of dominance. In a patriarchal society, we see this dominance as well. And so we love the idea of, yes, this is what it looks like, this is what it must be. And I agree with this dominance theory because it fits very well. And with the rise in the alpha conversations in human world, I wonder if this also then comes up, or it will be scary but interesting to see how much our dog world will regress back into the ideas of pack leader dominance theory because of the existing bits. So yeah, absolutely. Like human society, human structures do add to how we feel about dogs. I'm going to take a sip of water. It's a reminder for all of us to take a sip of water. I'm so glad I've started like drinking water more regularly. Okay, so no. Okay, something happened. And a simple answer to complex social structures. Thinking is not exactly what most people want to do. Reality is always more complex than how we want it to be. Absolutely. And I think it also comes down to I was reading this about no, I was actually watching a video on YouTube, and the topic was around trans people and how the perception of trans people in the world. And they were talking about how it's easy to make a choice that is in the popular narrative in the society or the current culture, whatever is popular. It's easy to be part of that because there is less conflict that you have to deal with, less critical thinking that you have to do, less questioning the established order. um, it's an easier thing to do, and I get why a lot of us would want to be with the popular than question and then be um, ostracized. But yes, absolutely, I think critical thinking as a skill is something that a lot of us do not develop, and it takes uh, effort to think critically, to question, and to obviously question the norms, and stuff like that. I think it's a skill one has to develop, and in education system, especially in India, critical thinking is not something that's rewarded. You are not taught to think critically, and also in a culture that we grew up in our culture, it's also not normal to question people of authority. So all this social order, social structure, your society, and how that conditions you seeps into what we see in dog world. Obviously it does. So I'm a little scared of what might uh, come up. Yeah, I'm a little scared of what might come up for the dog world. I swear, critical thinking is living thinking. Interesting. Can you elaborate a little bit more for all of us here? It's an interesting take. Critical thinking is living thinking. Okay, let's try removing a few of this. I swear. Have any of you used OBS Studio before? This is like a nightmare. It's not happening. I'm attempting to get the uh, video for us, but because I had some really nice videos to show you guys. Okay, so while I figure that out, let's think about what are a few things that free living dogs, street dogs, kind of teach us that makes it hard for us to, or what are the things that we want to learn from um, street dogs, or what are the things that they teach us, um, and why it might be uncomfortable. Okay, let's think about this. Why is it uncomfortable, in your opinion, from your perspective? I'll share my perspective of why I think it's uncomfortable. Why do you think it's uncomfortable for people to observe and learn from street dogs and find it a valid source of learning for us from dogs? Like, why is there resistance? Why is there? Because I will tell you this, from my experience, whenever I share about street dogs, whenever I share about our learnings, our observations, there are usually two kind of responses that I get. One response is that it's so sad that they are in this state. It's so unfortunate that they are in this state. And the other is that they are not same as our companion dogs. So you really cannot, it's not the same, so we can't really learn from them for our companion dogs. And to be fair, most people, most dog caregivers are interested in solutions to their problems that they're dealing with companion dogs. Research, academically learning about, you know, dogs is not an inclination a lot of the dog parents have, and that's fair if you are struggling with um, your own dog. So ultimately, one wants to know, how does your observations of free living dog ever help your companion dogs? It's a fair question, and the response is that they have, or the reason that they have, is they're not the same. They don't live the same lifestyle. They don't live the same life. Um, so we can't really expect to learn from free living dogs for our companion dogs. These are usually the responses that I get when I talk about street dogs. So, why this resistance? Why this barrier to learn from free living dogs? To even just look at them? Um, I remember a while ago I had shared story of Chocolate. Chocolate was our street dog in my parents' place in the past, and she was a dog who I came to know during 2020, just before the lockdown started, and she had injured herself. We took care of her. She was miserable in our house. When we were caring for her, she was in our house because she couldn't go back into the streets. She was attacked by other dogs, and our street had just been filled with new dogs. So they were all new dogs. They were all a little uncomfortable figuring out their dynamics and everything. And she was attacked by some of the dogs, and because she was hurt, we were tending to her at home, and she was miserable. She would howl and bark constantly, and we have had like a mattress ripped up by her when she was at home. She was supposed to be under our care for 5 days. On third day, we were like, she's just miserable. This is just not happening. We'll go and see how she responds to going back to the street. So we took her back to the street and removed the harness, and she ran away without looking back. Um, and that's very interesting because it showed us that they value their life on their streets. They value their agency. They want to be there. In fact, we were contemplating the idea of maybe getting her adopted by somebody, and she clearly told us she was not interested, and she thrived on the street the next few till when we were staying there. We met her. I have like so many interaction videos with her. She thrived on the streets, but she wanted to go out, and that is what she needed. So it's very interesting that a lot of these dogs do not want to be uh, adopted, but still, when I shared the story, the response was uh, they need to be adopted, or it's very sad that we're glorifying this life. Okay. um, when I listen to you, I perceive that your thoughts are fueled by questions and not by popular certainties or mandates. Absolutely. And I think all of us who are here learning new ways, exploring new avenues, are all here for with critical thinking. We are all questioning. We are all trying to find different ways. We are all making mistakes and then learning from it. There is some amount of, I think, humility, but also the ability to question what's being told. And I think that's very important for us when we are questioning popular narratives, because, yeah, maybe because it requires a radical shift of perspective and questioning their own treatment of their own dogs. It is a fundamental shift that few people are not afraid of. Absolutely. And I think this is where the biggest barrier comes, in my opinion, is that, okay, take free living dog. We have three dogs who are our streeties, Laddu, Lady, and Bala. And I'm going to, for the nth time, repeat their story. So if you have heard it, stick with me. If you have not, I hope you'll enjoy it. Somewhere around October 2023, this was just as we had lost Sammy, and we were a few months into it. And this new street dog comes up on our street, And he enters the house, and we are like, okay, sure, do what you gotta do, like, and then he went away. And a few days later, two more dogs come with him. Now, of the three dogs, this one dog, the first dog, we named him Laddu, and he would come inside our house, and he would spend the time here, and he would go out, come in when he wants, go out when he wants, all of that. And the other two dogs would just hang around outside our house, like just outside our gate. um, then over a period of time, these dogs would jump over our walls, so they did not even wait to open the gate for them. They were like, we will jump and come in when we want, we'll jump and go out when we want. Amazing, absolute no dependency on us. And so you're like, okay, these guys are just coming home, staying at home, and not doing anything. Okay. Then there was once, I think we needed the dogs to stay at home, or we had to like lock the door, and Lady did not like it at all. Lady did not appreciate being locked in the house at all. And she then went ahead and bit our TV. And I recently just moved the TV panel. Can you see? This was the TV panel. She bit it, and we had to get a new one. Why? Because we had locked the door. So she did not appreciate being locked in the house. She did not appreciate having lost that agency and freedom to decide what she wants to do. So this is one kind of life, right? Laddu and Lady. There's a third one who's Bala, who doesn't enter our house, but he sits in the front porch. And the three of them are a group. I have not been able to figure out their relationship with each other, but I do believe that Lady is like the mother. Uh, Not biologically, I can't say biologically, but she's like the mother. She's like, yeah, you can't do this, or like, I don't like what you're doing. So she's like the mother, I think. um, yeah, but that's them, that's their life. And then there's Zoe, who doesn't often get to go out at her whim, at her interest. She would love to. Varun and I keep discussing that she has the soul of a street dog but stuck in a house life, which is very sad, but also the truth. So you have this life where food is decided by somebody else, expectations of what you should and shouldn't be doing is decided by somebody else, whom you meet and don't meet is decided by somebody else, where you sleep and don't sleep is decided by somebody else. Uh, and you have these two very starkly opposite lives. And what is different between these two lives is our companion dogs live a life of control. Even when we offer a lot of freedom, even when we offer a lot of agency in day to day life, there is some amount of control. I do control Zoe's movements, and I tell her, no, you can't get out of the gate. You can't go by yourself. That's not allowed. That is control. There is some amount of control, even when we give so many choices to her. Whereas there's very limited control in the lives that Laddu, Lady, and Bala lead. The difference then is control, the human control um, in their lives. There's another difference, which is companion dogs have to feel comfortable with a lifestyle that is centered around the humans and their human needs, centered around human expectations, um, which the free living dogs don't have. If I tell Laddu that you walk on harness and leash, he'll be like, huh, no, F you, not doing this. Um, and he'll be like, yeah, I won't do it. Did you hear the dogs bark? Yeah, that was Laddu. So they have the ability to say no to people, and then walk away from the people if they feel like that their agency is being questioned. um, Raj uncle is here. Hi uncle. Uh, okay, some amazing messages here, but yes, I think that they lead such starkly different lives that the difference is the human involvement in the companion dog's life and the human expectations, the human lifestyles. And then if we have to look at and contrast these two lives and these two uh, sets of dogs, we can see that the difference is in the humans. And so then we have to really reflect on what we are doing with our dogs and change that if it comes down to it. And I think it's not easy to do. Not a lot of us can do it. Free living people. And over here, Europe, Germany, the poor street dog paradigm is very prevalent. Taking dogs off the streets is seen as saving them. Street dogs are seen as unnatural. Absolutely. This is something that we have seen, and I think I want to do like a longer conversation of why do we want to rescue street dogs, and is that even a viable solution for what? Like, what are we trying to solve there? Is human house a better house and better life for dogs? I have a whole like a blog written, but I think I want to do a live on that. Would that be an interesting conversation to have? Um, the obsession with rescuing street dogs and the fact that human home is a better home. Should we have that conversation too? Share and tell me what you think. This should not be such a controversial opinion. We should look at what a dog wants, not what we want. Absolutely. And I think it's fair to talk about both the needs, but the dog caregiving world has become so human centric, and it's something that's completely decided and thought about from the human perspective, that I think a little bit of decentering of humans can help. Not saying that we should like let go uh, the human needs or human perspective, but it's so centered around humans already that little bit of decentering of humans is a fair thing, and recentering dogs, recentering them into our conversations, because at the end of it they are part of this relationship. They are not passive subjects, they are active uh, agents of what's happening with them, and we should treat them like that. They're not passive subjects of what's happening to them. They reflect what life could be like if dogs had the freedom to choose the important things in their life. Perhaps it's hard to recognize that, and many prefer the idea of pet dogs. Absolutely, it's very hard to look at it and say, "Ah, even after offering choices to my dogs, I still control them." It's not an easy thing to confront. It's not easy to come to a realization that if given an option, my dog would want to be like a street dog. It's not an easy thing to confront, and like not giving her that choice, which is not possible. And that is the boundary that I'm setting, and then I have to make peace with it, knowing that there is some amount of control there. Even here in Curacao, we see the poor dogs, so picking them up and getting them adopted out is seen as a job well done. I want to bring them to India so they can experience magic with streeties. Absolutely. Free living dogs remind people of their own regimented and controlled lives. That is scary. Absolutely. I think to remind, to actually look at it and then be like, and this happens a lot, and this again, where intersectionality comes in, is I think when you think about, let's say, a marginalized community, and see that there is so much of control that one goes through in a marginalized community, be it gender, marginalized race, religion, caste. You are controlled and you are discriminated against extensively. And then you look at this species, this set of dogs who defy all form of control, and value their agency above everything else. and it's hard to then look at that and be like, they seem to have a lot more agency than I do in my life. It's very hard. Keep doing the stuff, it will help you. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I think it is a huge chance to learn from street dogs for how we live with our pet dogs. Every time I control my own dog, it makes me think about how I could do it differently, which would give her more. Absolutely. So now that comes down to what all can we learn from street dogs, free living dogs. And one important learning is, what role does agency and autonomy play in their life? So, for example, if I see that um, Laddu and Lady are so respectful of their agency and their autonomy, um, and they value it dearly. A lot of them value it so dearly, and they would choose um, their life on street and be free over maybe other things. Then it makes us wonder, okay, so then this is very important to them. It is probably important to a lot of dogs. How then can I offer this agency to my dog? I may not be able to let her free on the streets, but can I maybe let her have a say in something else that I am comfortable with? How can I do that? If she says no, then respecting the fact that she has the right to say no. These are few things that we can then learn from the observations of street dogs. We spoke about hugging dogs and the study on hugging dogs in the beginning of the stream, but it also comes down to body language. We saw, and I read out the comments to you, of how people were denying the possibility that a dog could not like hugs. But okay, so there is a study that says that 80% of dogs don't like being hugged, and this comes from the data collected from videos and pictures of dogs being hugged, and they see calming signals. So it's not something that dogs appreciate. This was this research, right? Now, this is such an amazing thing to then study with dogs, street dogs, free living dogs. I'm not saying go and hug them, but look at how perceptive they will be of your body language and how they respond to how you interact with them. Which is the example I gave you in the beginning. One of the dogs was so mindful of my body language that when I just swayed a little bit towards him, and he felt like I was closing in on him, he didn't appreciate, and he took a couple of steps away. This teaches us, and this can be a learning for us on how to improve our body language, how much we take for granted the way we interact with dogs, our dogs. How many times are we that perceptive about our body language with our own dogs? Or how many times do we think about, let's say for example, hugging your dog, or taking pictures. I had shared one video where one of the dogs absolutely did not appreciate being, captured, recorded, did not like. Can that learning now be applied to our dogs? Can I then think about, okay, so I approached this dog like this dog did not appreciate me approaching like this and recording them. So can I do this differently? Can I make my dog comfortable when I'm interacting with my dog? Can I change my body language when I'm... These are small things to think about. These are the things that you will learn while interacting with street dogs. It's amazing. What was life like for streeties in India back in the day when social media didn't exist and they had less visibility? It's very interesting because, honestly speaking, I can tell you my story. and I can tell you what I grew up, um, the perception that I grew up with. I have lived around street dogs all my life. So I have stayed in India, I have lived in an urban city. Street dogs are everywhere. For the majority of my life, I walked by street dogs without looking at them. They were just, and this can be seen as two different things, right? Like it can be looked at from two different perspectives. One is that they are so ignored by certain set of communities that people don't even like look at them, like spend a second just observing them or acknowledging them. That's one way to put it. The other way, and I think that is what I sort of believe, that's my perception, is that they blend into your environment and in your life so much that you pass by them without questioning. For example, um, and I'm going to ask you guys this: those of you who don't live alongside street dogs, who don't have a lot of interactions with street dogs, let's say you're walking by the street and you see a dog, are you going to be a little concerned where did this dog come from? Does this dog need rescuing? How does this how do you tend to this dog? What needs to be done? Or get scared of the dogs? If you are somebody who's scared of dogs, uh, react to them. There is some kind of a reaction to a sighting of a dog when you don't see dogs living on the streets. It's not part of your day-to-day lives. But in India, I think a lot of us just walk by them without noticing, because I think it essentially feels like they're part of the ecosystem. We have cattle roaming around, we have mm, people roaming around, we have lots of pedestrians, lots of vehicle movement. This is all part of the ecosystem and nothing would surprise you. And so walking by a street dog, being oblivious to their existence, seems like, that was my perspective, that's how I grew up. What was the perception of street dogs? Hard to say, and it's a great question. Maybe I will research that a little bit and get back. But to be honest, and this is something that Varun and I were discussing as well when we were walking yesterday or day before yesterday, and we were like, this is a lake and you probably have hundreds of people coming to the lake and taking a walk. Most people ignore the dog. Most people, they don't see the dogs around, they don't care for the dogs around. It doesn't matter, it's just another individual that they have to like maneuver around and walk. Most people. Some people I've seen kind of shoo the dog away because they, and I don't know why you need to do that. The dogs are not interested anyway, for most part. So some of them shoo the dogs away. And then comes the, like a very small percentage of people who acknowledge the dog, maybe like interact with the dog. I've seen, in all of 9 days, I've seen 2 people feed the dogs. So it's very interesting that in any community, then if you extrapolate this to any community, it seems like most people ignore. Some people are scared. Some people do take care of them, interact with them, offer them something. It could be connection, it could be shelter, it could be safe space, it could be food. And I think that's a great representation of what we would probably be seeing in a larger scheme of things. Uh, to be honest, even today in my hometown, which is a small town, where my grandmother lives, there are street dogs there, and nobody questions, should these street dogs be on the streets? Should they get adopted? Or should they be rescued? No, like there's no question around it. They just are part of the streets. They are part of the life. When I say they're part of the streets, I don't mean like they belong, like they belong to the streets. They are living on the streets, but they also come take refuge in the homes, sleep for some time, go out, but essentially live a free life, not owned by anybody, which is interesting to me. Maybe that answers a little bit of your question of how, what's the life like when social media didn't exist and they had less visibility. That's a beautiful comparison of agencies between marginalized human communities and street dogs. Absolutely. Intersectionality all the way. Street dogs agency can be a subversive thing. They are so clear in saying no, judging by your stories. On the days of people pleasing and being afraid of setting boundaries, that can be inspiring. Absolutely. They're so amazing in setting boundaries. They're so amazing in clearly communicating what they like and don't like. And they're so perceptive of the communication of the other. It is truly something to learn from. And again, not just learn about dogs, learn for ourselves, learn about ourselves, learn about dogs in general. So there's a lot to offer. There's a lot on offer for us. There's a lot we can learn. There are stories of conflict resolution. That's the other thing that they teach us. In our world, I think as humans, in human relationships, but also in human dog relationships or dog relationships, we are just afraid of conflict. We believe conflict does not exist or should not exist, or or conflict should be resolved in one particular way. When we train our dogs to respond to conflict, there is a certain perception we have about how that conflict must be addressed. But what if our dogs already know about conflict resolution? Now that question can be answered by studying free living dogs, street dogs, who maneuver social situations, who maneuver interactions with humans, with other dogs, with other animals. And when they do that, we're able to look at them and then say what that feels like. Are they able to resolve conflicts? Do they get into conflicts? Is that all rosy picture for them on the streets? It's fair to think about. That's the other bit we can learn. So if we learn from street dogs what conflict resolution looks like to them, do they get into conflicts? Are they able to resolve conflicts on their own, or they require human intervention for that conflict resolution? That will help us then take that learning into our how we help our dogs respond to conflicts, and maybe also learn a little bit about conflict ourselves, because I think a lot of humans also don't appreciate conflicts in their life, in their relationships, and so we either escape conflict, we run away from conflict, we prefer not to have conflict in situations to maintain peace. But their lives can teach us a little bit about conflict in life, just in general, like what that while there is love and there is respect, there is playfulness, there's also conflict. All of this is part of life. And so how do we then think about conflict? What do we think about conflict? They can teach us a lot about that too. There's so much to learn from them. So I do think that a big reason to think about street dogs and their lives, and one more thing that I do want to talk about is that a lot of people dismiss street dogs and the learnings from street dogs because they're struggling. So their struggles, life, it's almost like you can't learn from them because they're struggling. Now, to honestly say, yes, there are a lot of dogs who are struggling. When we go on the walks in the lake, there's a dog that's limping. Some of them are quite lean. maybe malnutrition. They might have their own struggles. But does that nullify everything else? Does that take away all other things that make them who they are? Um, and does that mean that just because they're struggling, that they don't offer anything for us to learn about life and about dogs? I think even when someone is struggling, they deserve dignity, they deserve respect, and respect for the choices too. If a dog is struggling and I want to rescue them, and they don't want it, they prefer the life here, should I or should I not respect that life? It's a thing to question. So yes, they struggle. So do so many of us. So do a lot of us. But that doesn't mean we have nothing to offer. Struggles are again part of life, I think, and that doesn't nullify what we have on offer, what we can offer even if we are struggling, what the dogs can offer to us even when they're struggling. So the idea is, yes, companion dogs are companion dogs. Nobody is making them free living dogs. Free living dogs are free living dogs. Nobody is making them companion dogs. But being the same species, at the end of it, they're the same species. They, why would you pick wolf studies when you have free living dogs to study the concepts? Let's take, for example, the dominance theory and alpha theory, right? That's basically social structure and social hierarchies. Can we not look at street dogs and learn about social structure and social hierarchies while looking at street dogs? Can we not do that? Why look at wolf studies that was done in 1970s and then has been rejected because it was done on captive wolves, and the whole theory has been dismissed? Not saying, again, there's a nuanced conversation there, but I don't even think that there is an ability to understand that dominance in the way we think dominance, and the dominance or like the hierarchies or social structures that exist in animal world, they're so different that I don't even think we are ready to have that conversation. But just to take the learnings like the alpha theory, we took it from captive wolves in 1970s, whereas we are seeing free living dogs right here, right now. Why the rejection of them, but ready to take wolf studies? Street dogs are literally the same species. They belong to the same, like, yeah. One of the authors, David Meach, even withdrew his studies, and absolutely, he in fact, he wanted to recall his books, the books that popularized the idea of alpha theory. And then there's a whole video that he made, taking back that idea. And then I think they also did a lot of studies later on wolves in the wild, in their ecological niche, in their normal environment, doing normal wolf things, and they observed very different things. So yes, you're trying to compare captive wolves and captive animals, companion animals in captive spaces, which is in human homes. Sure, but then there's also a matter of dog to dog, like what does a dog behave like in a certain situation? What does a dog need? How does a dog respond? How perceptive is a dog? These are things that I think we definitely need to question and think about. And there is no better teacher. Like nobody, no professional could sit and teach you that this is how you respond to a dog. This is what you do. Yes, you have a starting point, but then there's only one person who can tell you whether what you're doing is okay or not, and that's the dog in front of you. And it's best to learn from dogs who don't depend on you. There is no power dynamic between you and that dog. Between me and Zoe, there is power dynamic. No matter what we think about, I hypothetically can refuse to give her food, can refuse to give her connection. There is a power dynamic. And if I take away connection, take away food, I have taken away two very valuable survival resources. There is a power dynamic there. So when I know that there is no power dynamic between me and the lake dogs, there is zero power dynamic. They could just tell me, I don't like you, don't come near me, and can walk away. That's a great place to start. Amazing place to start. They can tell me off if they don't like what I'm doing, and they will make me earn their trust. They will make me respect them. And that is a great learning opportunity. The amount of mistakes I've made in the last 9 days while interacting with dogs, my god, it's a learning opportunity for sure. So I think it's worth looking at street dogs, free living dogs. So now I have a few things to like propose to you guys, and I want you to tell me how would you feel about it. There are a few studies um, that people have done on this idea of coevolution, the human dog social cognition, which is basically interaction um, between humans and dogs. It's little research heavy, but we will talk about what it means for us. We'll like pull up videos and stuff like that and like try to make it a lot more non-academic. Would you like that? If you like that, just say hi. If you'd like us to do a little bit of a research deep dive, pulling out a few studies on street dogs, free living dogs, human dog interaction, and chat about that a little more deeply with videos. I am going to figure out the videos the next time. This time I had like a whole lot of amazing videos of the lake dogs to share, but unfortunately, tech being tech, and I'm new learning it too. So next time, hopefully, would you like a topic on that? Let a deep dive conversation chat on that too. Say hi if you like that. That's one suggestion. Also, I must thank all of you who have stayed with me for 1.5 hours talking about street dogs, listening to the stories about street dogs, and also sharing your thoughts, whether or not you've lived uh, in close proximity to street dogs. Thank you for doing that. Chani says hi. Sure. So we will. So that's one suggestion, which is a little bit of research, what the academic world says, and then taking examples from the videos and stories that I have, you guys might have, and then talking about it. Uh, Amazing. Honestly, this space is where we have freedom to do what we want to do. Like we can get nerdy if we want, we can get academic if we want, we can get like it can get fun if we want. Whatever you need is what the space will be. And I think we all definitely do love talking about dogs, stories about dogs. So yes, any which way that we can do that. So that's one suggestion, one idea. The other idea I had, and have you guys seen um, the things that I shared about the fact that I want to start the Dog Watchers Club? Have you seen that? So there's this idea that's been on my mind for a while, for a few months now, which is that I want to start the Dog Watchers Club, where basically the idea of the club, think of it like bird watching, where people love, they go out, they go on a walk, watch birds, observe, document it, learn from what they observe, and then that's it. That's for the love of dogs. Just love watching birds, but in our case, doing similar things to do with dogs. Now the club itself is yet to launch. The club itself, I'm yet to open it up for people to join in, and we'll have to figure out what is the logistics for people who don't have access to watch free living dogs. Would it make sense to watch, go on a observation of maybe dog parks, dogs in the dog park? What are you observing? That's a contrast to what we would see if it's free living dogs. So the logistics of it is to yet to figure out. But we could have like one live stream where we just look at the videos that I have been able to record all this while, and maybe more over a period of time, and then just share our thoughts of what we're observing, what we're seeing, what we can learn from it. Is there anything we can learn from it at all? Or maybe it's just fun watching dog videos and be done with it. My videos, I will share context. If any of you have videos to share with me, if you'll share it with me, I will put it up here and then credit you for the video, and then we can discuss those videos too. But basically just look at dogs, observe them, watch them, their interactions amongst each other, their interactions with humans, their just existence, what we are seeing repeatedly, and then chat about it. Would you like that? And most of what my videos would be right now, most of them will be free living dogs, but maybe if there are a few videos between Zoe and the other dogs and stuff like that, I can put Zoe or Sammy with the other dogs, I can put that also. But primarily there'll be a lot of street dog videos. So just video analysis, video viewing, chatting about what we are watching in the videos, what comes up. Would you be interested in that? Say hi if you're interested in that. So I'm very excited about sharing all of those videos, and I think there's a lot to observe and a lot to question, reflect as well. So that might be a good one. That might be a great starter for us to just see how it feels like to be in a dog watchers club, and then maybe open it up for everybody. I have been doing the walks and then the interactions with the lake dogs, mostly as my field visits, to know what are the difficulties in doing a dog watchers club. What does a field study look like? What are the difficulties that might come up? What are the interesting observations that might come up? So of course that is something that I was interested in. So okay, great. So maybe we'll do one of these as well soon enough. There are two more topics that are lined up, and I thought I'll give you a heads up about it. One topic is about pain in dogs, which I really want to talk about, because not just pain in dogs, but just your dog's health, because I have seen this repeatedly come up in conversations where people talk about how their dog is healthy, right? Because all the tests came out normal, the dogs are being normal and stuff like that, but there are other indicators to possible health concerns, and I think we need to talk a lot more about it. So there's one conversation I want to have on that, and one more that I have lined up is our relationship with food and how that translates with dogs in the picture. I need to figure out a better title for it, but basically how we perceive food and what is our relationship with food and how that translates to dogs. And I hope to bring Varun, my husband, on the talk there, because the way he sees food and views food is very different from the way I view food. So that's another conversation I want to have. Are you excited about these two topics? So these are few things that we can talk about in the next few lives. Yeah. Okay. So now, last question is: do you guys like this live streaming format? Do you have any feedback on the live streams that we are doing? any topics that you're interested in. Where can we get the official Dog Promise merch? Great, I'm wearing one. Well behaved is not equal to well being. Yeah. We have three such, and for people in India, it's only open for people in India, and there's a Swiggy mini store, and I will share that link in the description so that you can get it if you want. We have mugs, we have totes, we have t-shirts, we have stickers. You can pick whichever that you would love. So tell me if you love the live streaming format. I hope you have liked this video. If you have stayed till now, please do like the video. Please subscribe to the channel so that whenever, I mean, of course, I'm announcing it every time I go live now, but I want to be able to not have to announce it on all the platforms going forward. So please do subscribe to the channel, like it, share it with your friends, other dog people that you know. I love the intersectionality of your topics. I do think we should talk about intersectionality, and I think there's another thing that I've been researching. So have you heard of Donna Haraway? She is a uh, feminist studies researcher she basically talks about gender studies and animal studies. So I've been like trying to read a lot of her research and people commenting and on her research, and people who have the topic of ecofeminism, which is basically the intersectionality between um, environmental studies, animal studies, ecological studies, and feminism. So that intersectionality, and I think I resonate a lot with that because I come from a feminist bias in all my conversations. You will see that. Um, we should, I think, do like a conversation on that too. It's going to be very interesting. So I do want to talk about all of these topics, and I'm glad you guys are loving it. I'm glad that you are enjoying these conversations. Um, and I'm glad for all the cheering that all of you have done, and all the, of course, interaction and thoughts and reflections that all of you shared, because at the end of it, live stream is mostly chatting, discussing with all of you. So I'd love to have you guys engage in the conversations and discuss with me, share your thoughts with me, and we will take it accordingly. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I hope that we will meet soon. I'm hoping to do a lot more of this because I like this format for myself, and I'm hoping you love this too. So I hope I'll see you soon, and with another topic. Maybe next time we'll do videos, lot more videos, and like discuss dog watching, or maybe pain. I'll figure it out which one. But I hope you'll be there too, and I will look forward to seeing you again. Bye. Good night. Good day. Take care. Like, share, subscribe, please. We need to grow the space and have more such conversations, all of us. Thank you.